Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about bar tape. So for me, the bar tape that comes on this bike, I'm not a big fan of. Mostly it gets wet and it kind of turns gummy. Also, it's not like very padding. And what it comes down to is the ride that I'm trying to do on this bike. I need all the help I can get, to be entirely honest. So I'm gonna show you guys how to go from basically this stuff right here, which not a lot of give, really like beginner bar tape, to something more like this, which is really cushy, and it's a lot more durable. But there's a technique to it. Everyone has a different technique. The one that I learned was from a guy who wraps bars for the World Tour on one of the U23 teams. Really cool guy, and he taught me a lot of really good stuff. So let's kind of dig into that. So there's a couple different things you need for this. Obviously, what it comes down to is you're going to need your bar tape, which is right here. This is the stuff that I went with. It's the Wolf Tooth 5mm thick bar tape. You also, I know this sounds weird, but a chip clip, like for like the top of the bags on chips that you've opened, is super helpful. Make sure like it opens wide enough to get around your bar though. You're gonna need some scissors. Sometimes you need a razor blade. I try not to use that when I don't have to. And then electrical tape. This is your best friend on this stuff. But yeah, let's get into it and see what we can do here. Okay, so first rule is make sure that all of your stuff is really close to you. If you don't have your stuff close to you, you're gonna end up in a position where like it's gonna unravel and all this stuff. So you work really hard for nothing, basically. So what we're gonna do first, I ended up on the other side. I did need the razor blade to get this tape off, but we're just gonna cut right here. So you'll see the green tape there. So basically what I did was, because the factory does use like a precise measurement as far as how far their bar tape goes, it's usually pretty well even as long as you have the bars centered. So I like to put a mark there so that I know like where I'm aiming for, which is what I did on the other side. And then hopefully like your bar tape comes out at least like relatively even. I'm a little particular about my bar tape just because, I don't know, I'm like OCD or something. But so we're gonna unwrap all this and you're gonna see like the residue from the tape. If you can get it off, I've noticed with this stuff, like I have a really hard time getting it off on my other bikes that I've had from them. So I just kind of leave it, honestly. I know that's not best practice, and that's not, you know, that adds like probably a whole half of a gram or some crap, and people are going to be very upset with me for even saying that. But we're just going to unwrap all this stuff. And these bar end plugs, just these particular ones are kind of weird. They have a screw in them. Most of them you just like can pop out with like a flathead screwdriver or something. Okay, so now that we got that done, let's look at our bar tape. So this bar tape is really thick, it's really wide. You have to kind of figure this stuff out because it's not a very long roll either. And it's meant so that you have to wrap it correctly. Other tapes, they come very long. And that's mostly because like they're expecting kind of a newer person to wrap with it, which there's nothing wrong with. It just gives you a little bit more room for error. So what we're gonna do is, the goal that we're trying to get is to have enough of it out to where, and I'll show you guys this. So we're basically trying to be able to like leave enough of a amount so that when we squeeze the end of this, we can fold it all in and stuff it and use the bar plug to like jam it in there and lock it down. So once we do that, so you'll notice on this bar tape, there's a thick ridge in the middle there. Make sure that you guys can actually see that. So that thick ridge, we're basically wanting to end up where this doesn't land on top of itself. So let's start kind of going through it. Your first wrap is never going to look quite right. Obviously the guy I learned from, he could get it dialed the first time and it was freaking crazy. But so now we'll just we'll go through it. I'm going to time warp it because it does take a lot of time. If there's something that I think, like once we get near the shifters and whatnot, I'll show you guys how to do that because there is like a correct way to do that. So give me 1 minute. Okay, so as you guys can see, I use my chip clip to keep that tension because if you don't want this to get loose, if it gets loose, you're gonna have to rewrap the whole thing. So this is that part that I was telling you about where you really have to be careful. So what we want to do is make sure there's not a point where you can see either the bar or the shifter once the hood is down. So you'll be able to see it when the hood is up, but once the hood comes down, you want to make sure that everything's covered because that can just lead to a point where your fingers get irritated, you get a raw spot, something like that. So what we're gonna do, our first wrap around this area, we're gonna get it close and we're gonna come up and over the top here, right here. And then we're gonna come back down right here and see how there's this cross right here. That's what we're looking for. We want that to be in there. And then once we wrap this again, you'll notice it gives you that really nice, like almost braided look. But also that means that you've probably covered everything that you need to. Especially with this tape, I've noticed this tape is really easy to wrap bars with, honestly, because it's so wide. Like it's really hard to end up with a gap in there. Some of the thinner bar tape that you see more on like road bikes, things like that, or even just some gravel bikes that like they don't feel like their hands need that extra support, which for me, coming from a place of like, I'm just gonna pinch this off really quick, coming from a place where like normally I ride full suspension bikes and this is kind of new to me, I kind of feel like I need all the help I can get because my hands like start to go numb on really long rides and stuff. So the other thing that I wanted to show you guys is once you flip the hood down, and I'll pick the camera up and show you guys what you're looking for, the areas that you'll most commonly see it sticking out is right here. So right in this area, right in here, you need to watch and make sure that you don't have like a little triangle of like open bar right there, because that will rub the heck out of one of your knuckles. And then also like right in here, that area usually tends to have a little bit of a gap, and it looks like we might have a little bit of a gap. And actually, like the way that I wrap this, I'm gonna run out of tape. I'm not gonna be able to make it to my line that I wanted. So I'm actually gonna go back, and I think I have this part a little bit too tightly wound right in here. So I'm gonna try and see if I can space it out, especially like see how it's uneven right here. Try and make these as even as you can. You know, like sometimes you're gonna have areas like this where it's just not possible, but try and make it as even as you can. So I'll time warp it again so you guys don't have to watch me screw this up more than once. And then at the end I'll kind of show you how to get the bar ended, and then like how we tape like our finishing tape up in here and stuff. Okay guys, so for the end of this, I finally got it to where my mark was, which is what I was looking for, at least somewhat. We're gonna adjust that a little bit. So as you can see right here, you'll see that there's that triangle right here of empty bar. So, make sure I put you guys back on the bar correctly so that you can actually see. Sorry. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to pop this tape off because that can come off. That was just extra that was in there. So what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to cut this tape so that it fits that gap, and that's it. That's all we want. And we obviously want to make sure that everything is still going to like line up nice and pretty and look nice and good and all that stuff. But that's what we're going to do is we're just going to cut it right here so that it just fits in there, and then we'll tape over that. So let's grab our scissors here. So one thing I will recommend is do not like go full bore on this and just start hacking away. Take like chunks off, and like you'll have to make multiple cuts, but it'll just get you closer to where you want to be. And that way you can kind of figure out what line you're looking for and not cut, like once you cut it, you cut it. So just be careful about that. Cut that the wrong way, didn't I? So that happens sometimes. You overthink things, and you got to remember you're looking at the mirror image, not... Oh, at least that worked out. But yeah, so now if we look at it, that was one of those do what I say, not what I do kind of situations there. Okay, so let me hold that. So that's what we're looking at right there. See how it nicely layers right there, no big deal. And now we can tape that down and it'll look really nice and it won't feel like crap in your hand. So to take that down, a lot of companies will give you finishing tape, things like that. I've really noticed that electrical tape, really like nice electrical tape, and I know that sounds dumb, but like 3M, like spend $10 on a roll of it, you know what I mean, works the best. The finishing tape seems to come off for me, and that is not something I want to deal with, like my bars unwrapping as I'm riding. So we'll get this going here. I think I also just like the electrical tape because I used to climb power poles and we always used electrical tape, so it makes me happy. I don't know. But, so, we're just going to tape this. Oh, excuse me. My allergies have been going crazy. We want to make sure when we tape it, it doesn't cause like an opening to appear back here. Which is kind of what I'm dealing with, but we can fix that. So we're just going to do one wrap right here just to get it started, and then we'll go down a little bit just to fix that problem that I was noticing. And yeah, it's not going to look amazing. You're not going to look like you're belonging in the Tour de France if you use electrical tape. It's not going to be like one strip and you're done. Some people can do that. I would rather make sure my bar is actually attached and it's not going anywhere. So then we're just going to cut it, and you want the end of it to be on the underside of the bar where when your hands rotate on the bar, it's not going to peel it off. And that is different on each side of the bar and the whole 9 yards. So let's look at what I was talking about. So this is the hood, right? This rubber piece right here. So when we push this back over, it's much trickier to do with one hand than I thought. We want to make sure that that lays flat, but also like no gap here. We're going to go over here. There's no gap right in here. That's all covered with tape. We want to make sure that there's no like big lumps that like hurt our hands or anything, feel really weird or anything like that. One thing I forgot to mention at the start of this is I'll usually put like a piece of Velcro around the wheel to the frame. Just to keep the bars from moving too much. You'll get a little bit of movement still, but it at least helps. So yeah, that's how I wrap bars. I'm not saying it's the right way. I'm not saying it's the wrong way, but for someone to start, it's at least an idea of what to do. So let's move on to the bar end. So the bar end is like one of the trickier things you have to deal with. The way I was taught was if you grab it and pinch, it should fold everything into there, and then you can just push the bar end through. Because this stuff is so thick, it's really hard to get the bar end in. It causes me some issues, so I'm sure you guys will enjoy watching me struggle with this. But so the other thing too is like most bar ends, most bar ends will come in the kit for your bar tape. Some bar tape doesn't come with it, but that's pretty rare. And if it doesn't, like, just go down to like, REI, any of your local, honestly, your local bike shops, and just tell them you need bar ends. They have them. They fall out from time to time, stuff like that. You can use those ones with the screw in them. I just think it's like adding yet another thing that I have to be careful of, making sure that I have the tool if it comes loose during a race or something like that. And, when you're racing, you're trying to simplify things to the point that you feel comfortable and you don't feel like you've gotten rid of too much, but also that you are losing as much weight off the bike as you can. For the race that I'm doing, because it's so long, there is somewhat of an emphasis on weight, but more so I need to be able to self-sustain on the trail. That's the bigger thing that I'm concerned with for that race. I haven't done a race that long before. I've been talking to a lot of people who have, and they've been helping me kind of like figure out nutrition and stuff, which I'll share with you guys here soon. Again, everything on this channel is just stuff that I've picked up. It doesn't necessarily mean it's right. It doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It's just the way I do things. And a big part of this is like figuring out where your comforts are and figuring out like what you're willing to do. Like, obviously you can take this to a bike shop and they'll wrap them for you, no problem. But for me, there's something about it that, I like doing, but also I like knowing exactly what is happening with my bike, and I like doing all the work on it. So yeah, that's the end of my bar tape little tutorial here. Let me know if you guys like it. If you guys want to see more videos like this on my channel, like, absolutely, we can go through it and do more stuff like that. Thanks.